All right, five, four, three. I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm not going to remember to check this anyway later. All right, let's begin. All right, hello everyone. It is time for the second episode of InterVisions. It feels a little while since we've done our last one, but we have some new visuals today. We're looking a little more professional and all the nervousness. But today we are joined by two streamers, content creators, and wonderful human beings. So let's get into some introductions and whatnot. So first of all, we have Reindell, and we also have MinuteHour making his debut. So first of all, Reindell, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Finally, the weekend. I feel like I've had a pretty crazy week trying to balance work and then content creation. So it feels good to be able to just do content creation for a couple of days.
All right, and MinuteHour, this is your first time on InterVision, so if you want to give a little bit of an introduction for those who may not know you, although I think you're pretty darn well known in the community, so please go ahead.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I am Minute Hour on Discord, Minute Havoc on Twitch, and Minute on YouTube. So I'm a little bit all over the place with my naming, something I need to resolve at some point, but I have not done that yet, unfortunately. I am exhausted because I had my kids today who are asleep in the next room, and hopefully they will not be interrupting this.
Oh, so we might have some guest hosts too. That's fantastic.
Yeah, you
Uh,
might see a small top of a head that comes up to like right here.
oh, and even you're on camera. That's so. So anyway, what have you guys been up to this week? If you don't mind me asking, what have you been doing? How about you, Reindell?
Well, in War of the Visions, we just got the release of Silma, and I really wanted to use her for class matches. So I've been kind of rushing skip tickets and trying to get her to be ready. So there was that going on. And then on my personal life, nothing too special. We're preparing some reparations on the deck at the in the back of the house. So it was a little bit of a project there.
Nice, nice. How about you, Minute?
So it's definitely a farming week for me. So I went ahead and picked up Luell. I was originally going to skip her, but then we had some pretty good options for getting her if you spend money in the game. So I decided to go ahead and do that. And that basically means I have to farm books, book tablets, book everything.
Oh yeah, I
And,
feel you.
uh, luckily for me, I'm not a big class match fan, so I'm not too worried about that, and it's really just grinding all of the stuff right now.
Nice, nice.
So can we
Um,
throw the ball back to you, Umbra?
yeah.
How are things?
Well, I this week has been a lot of triple rate farming on the JP side, and I do want to take this moment to just clear up that I made a tiny incy wincy itty bitty little mistake on one of my more recent videos where I misunderstood one of the JP banners. One of the 1.5 anniversary banners is actually much better than I thought it was. It's the select a unit paid banner where you can select any unit you want below 100 cost. And the thing that I made a mistake on was that step 2 and step 3 actually allow you to choose 80 shards of a unit of your choice below 100 cost, but it's actually you get to choose 160 shards on step 2 and 240 shards on step 3.
Wow, that sounds pretty good.
It's a lot of value. Matter of fact, for globalers who might be interested in Charlotte, if you just save up your pennies and just buy over a long period of time, 6,000 paid lapis, you could get Charlotte and like 400 shards for her just off of that. So it might be a little bit more value for globalers and knowing that's coming.
Oh yeah, that's good to know. I might plan around that because I'm actually intending to go for her. So
Yeah.
it's good to know.
She's
Yeah, and I'd expect we'll probably get something like that because that's basically what we just got with the Luell paid banner: 6K, 400 shards, and the new unit guaranteed. And so it's not that much of a step further to say 5 months down the road we'd get the same thing.
Yeah, just with a little more freedom of choice. So I've been doing that in real life, just been doing work. Actually going to be switching my jobs over the summer, so but still staying in Japan, and that has me incredibly stressed out lately. But then other than that, just playing some PlayStation 5 and playing a fair bit of Returnal, which is an absolutely sweet game. Love that game.
I think I'm gonna have to pick that up. I've been sitting on the fence on it for a while, but everyone is raving about it.
It is an amazing roguelike game. I love atmospheric horror more than like just wah, something jumps out and scares you. Like it's great. The gameplay's fun, and I really recommend.
That's also pretty good because if I remember correctly, you received the game while doing this last time. So
Yes.
you've been at it for a couple of weeks now.
Well, at it for a couple of weeks is kind of true. My best experience, minute is when, and Reindell is like, if you have a good set of headphones, doing the 3D audio at nighttime when you have other people in your house, because you'll hear tiny creaks and the 3D atmosphere is just, it'll put a little bit of the fear in you. So it's great for that.
That sounds like something I should not do if I want to sleep.
I'm with you there. I'm a scaredy cat when it comes to good horror settings. It really gets to me.
Yeah, I couldn't watch Stranger Things at night.
Well, maybe 3D audio is not for you, and at nighttime with your kids, that will come into the room and then you'll like leap out of your.
Yeah, definitely not on the nights I've got the kids for sure.
All right, so thank you guys. Let's move on to our first topic for the day, which is the JP 1.5 year anniversary. Now, this is still ongoing, and we haven't seen everything to do with it yet because starting Monday is the new tower, and we don't even know what the bonus is. We don't know what the big item we're getting for it. God help us if it's the dark improvement ring, because we just don't need to see that right now. But I thought
Dark doesn't need to get better.
yeah, no, it really doesn't. So we're going to talk today. We're going to talk about quality of life improvements. We're going to talk about Glassy, but let's start with the events. So first of all, the raid event, where all of the raids have returned. They are essentially multi-events now. They are not raids. And one of the big things is that there's a 20 turn time limit on all of them, meaning that from my experience so far, even in like high tier rooms, I mean, not like set up rooms, but essentially rooms where you're with randos, if one unit dies, you're almost guaranteed to fail the brutal content, the level 100 stuff, and the level 50 is a little more lenient, but you're getting less resources. You guys think about this. Let's start with Minute on this one.
So I wasn't aware of the lowered turn timer, and I think that's really interesting, because like those raids are severely power crept by level 120 units. We're already seeing this on the global side a lot with solo unit comps for Diablos, solo mont comps for who did we just have? I'm forgetting whoever we just had, but Glacial.
The
That was it.
iceberg, yeah.
Yeah, the iceberg, right? And so something that would make that a little more challenging, I think, is something that I will actually be looking forward to. And I really like that it's also that all that stuff's coming back and giving people a better chance to finally get some of that equipment. You've gotta find a way to do that in games like these, or new players will just never be able to catch up.
Yeah. How about you, Reindell?
I would sit in a similar position to what Minute said. I like the fact that they're bringing all of them back because players can then pick the piece of equipment they need the most and try to farm for these. And a lot of the guides and whatnot that people can watch feature raid equipment because they're usually top tier. So it's fun for newer players to have an opportunity to do them. But at the same time, if it's a really short timer, players that are newer might not even be able to do them. So I'm not sure how easy it is to get those pieces of equipment. I kind of hope that players can do it. In regards to the fun of doing them, I think having a shorter timer might be fun for a couple times. But since you're farming raids so many times before getting a piece of gear, it might become a little bit more tedious because you have to manual, I would guess, if it's only a 20 turn timer. You have to do the optimal plays.
Akito in chat is pointing out that it's always been 20 turns for raids, so it's not actually shorter, which
True.
is which I missed out on. Sorry about that.
Well, okay, but as has been pointed out in chat, that is correct. However, there is a big difference between the raids and the multis, whereas in the multis, if you hit the 0 turn, you get nothing.
Oh, yeah, that's actually a big deal.
Yeah, so essentially, there's 4 different raids. There's the Ifrit one, which is probably the most reliable since there's a lot of Aldiras out there, but there's also more now. But there's Ifrit, there's the chocolate flan, the white flan, which because this is a PG stream, we will refer to it as the white flan. And last but not least is King Behemoth. And from my experience playing them, King Behemoth feels like it's actually stronger as he one-shot a couple of Yunas from my experience, which was an auto fail basically. The flans, the chocolate flan seems to be more prone to running away, and the white flan causes sleep. And I might have gotten those 2 flans backwards. But any status effects on a 20 turn time limit with no carryover is basically an instant fail and a loss of about 20 stamina per run.
Yeah, White Flan was definitely the hardest raid at the time it came out, and I do remember it causing the sleep, and even like 4 Veneras with bells could struggle to do that, and she was the featured unit for that raid. So I'm really curious about that one and whether or not it's easier now.
My opinion, no. Even with 120s, groups of 120s, I've seen just Yuans at 120s. I've seen get sleep status effect, and then your turn you go by, and you can't deal enough damage to finish it.
Yeah, so I might revise what I said earlier and say that with the fact that you don't get any rewards if you don't succeed, I feel like there's going to be a lot of gatekeeping on who gets let into that. And it's not as useful for older players anymore because a lot of the players that have the units that could carry you aren't even going to be joining those at this point.
How about you, Reindell?
Yeah, I'm really wondering how accessible it is for newer players because I feel like older players don't necessarily need this, especially since newer raids always have a couple of older recipes, so you can slowly get these. So knowing how difficult it can be and that you don't get anything if you don't have a perfect clear, I'm not that much of a fan of it. Yeah, I'm scared for newer players who are like going to be really thrilled that they can get raid equipment, but then just get kicked out of the rooms or go in the rooms, but then fail to get their rewards.
Yeah, and I can guarantee any newer player without bells doesn't stand a chance.
Yep.
Yeah.
Of not getting kicked.
Yeah. So hopefully I think there's only one real note here. They just need to raise the time limit on it. 30 turns, especially for the basic ones. Like, there's no reason for the basic ones to be 20 as well. They should just be 30. They should be incredibly welcoming. But all right.
I'd like to see something maybe akin to Trials of Reckoning, where you get better rewards the more turns you have left, or something like that.
That would be a good idea.
That would be I think a really interesting way to still sort of encourage people to bring like the best teams for it without having to do the like all or nothing.
Yeah, definitely. If it was similar to the raids and you could get some medals or something, even if you don't clear it all the way, that would make it much more welcoming. And then Chad is pointing out that we there is access to a harder mode, hard mode, which is easier than the brutal difficulty. I don't know what the exact difference in drops is, but at least they made that available. So that might be a way for newer players to slowly but surely get those equipment.
I just like to see the time limit. But next up is the tower. Now, we don't know too much about the tower. Again, we don't know the reward or anything. It's going to be against story bosses. So, since it hasn't dropped yet, what are your guys' general thoughts on this one? Let's go with Reindell on first.
Well, I always like Tower personally. It's one of my favorite pieces of content. And as we were speaking last episode, I feel like content that you need to think about and play more strategically is something that we're missing, especially for non PvP game modes. So I'm hoping they do something interesting with it. In terms of the rewards, like you said, hopefully not the Dark Ring, since almost every tower has been given one of the rings, aside from the time we got the Crimson Saber. I'm expecting a new ring for one of the elements, but I'm hoping it's not dark. It could be lightning. I believe lightning hasn't had it, and then they just got a couple new units. So that would be my guess if I had to make one.
Yeah, Garvel's little sister is coming in the selection quest too. Or Garvel's sister. I don't know if she's little. But, anyway, yeah. Thunder might make sense. Minute, what do you think?
So, is it another 10 floors, do we know, on top of what's already existing? Or is it
It's
like a new tower?
From my understanding, I think it's a new tower with about 20. Don't necessarily quote me on that, chat.
So, if it's a new tower, it sounds more interesting to me. I was just talking because we're expecting, I think, tower next week in global as well right now, which I think is another 10 floors,
Yes.
maybe.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm really not looking forward to it. Even though I've enjoyed Tower in the past, I sort of felt like this last time it just felt like such a grind. The fact that I don't have a good way to sort of save off the teams by like floor or anything like that, and then having to go and reconstruct them on my second pass every time, I find myself basically just building an invade team and autoing with abilities off like 90% of the time.
Yeah, and I'll say that I did the exact same thing with the tower rerun. I for the first run I had good teams, and then when I had to do it another time, it was really less entertaining. I set up auto teams with abilities off all the way to the higher floors, and then I just had two or three strong teams, and I would reset in between their runs to get the last clears.
Exactly.
Yeah, this actually leads into our new quality of life improvements bit. They've expanded the number of teams that you can actually create now for everything essentially. So that's pretty helpful for doing tower and everything like that. But the real quality of life improvement is obviously the one that a lot of people are talking about is the star system, full star system and the Vision Star system, which essentially, it allows you to get some extra, from your pulls on specific banners, lets you get some extra shards for things you want. The general consensus so far is that it's better for Vision cards than characters, but I guess you globalers kind of have this wonderful spring medal system that you're not too eager to lose, right? So, how about you, Minute? What do you think?
Yeah, so I think is the star thing tied to paid viz? That would be my big question. That's what I don't know. So
No, it's
and so
not.
so keeping in mind this is the perspective of someone who's a whale at this point. Um, for whales, the metal systems are fantastic. Like basically new units come out and new vision cards come out, and I spend like a few K of paid viz, and I max everything. All like I don't do whimsy farming anymore. I don't do anything like that. I just have everything maxed. And it's a lot cheaper to do that now than it was before. Um, so if you spend money, I think the star system seems like a step backwards, but it's probably good for people who don't and newer players trying to catch up.
All right. How about you, Reindell?
I would say we have to make a difference between a server that does have the medals and a server that doesn't. So for JP, going in there without any way, any real easy way to get shards for older vision cards, I think it's a great upgrade because you have a chance now if you have a newer account and you want to build Ifrit or Ramu or those staples that you need to be able to have more versatile teams. I think it's great. But I'm pretty sure if you gave JP players the choice between this system and just the medals we get, they'll just pick the medals. It's much, much better, at least for spenders. I do like the fact that it's available for players who use FreeViz, though, so it's a little bit easier on free-to-play players as well.
Well, I mean, so to comment about paid Lapis, if you did like a paid banner where you get 10 URs, let's say it's 10 UR units, you're getting 25, like it's not shards, but it's actual like character pulls. You're getting 25 of those medals each one. So, 25 times 10, you're getting 250, which is almost 100 shards of a unit of your choosing. But also keep in mind, my guess and chat as well, that it can be used on limited time units while the limited time units are available. So in other words, you save up if you're like wanting to get Cloud or Tifa or Aerith or Barrett. Potentially, if you save up your stuff and you go on those banners, you can get like 300 those shards. That's 100 of the character or vision card that you don't necessarily have to get other ways.
Yeah, so I would say that that is definitely a plus over the medal system that Global gets, because we basically have like the shop we get runs for 5 weeks, and if it doesn't get added to the shop in those 5 weeks, and you run out of stuff to spend your medals on, you just wasted everything. The fact that you can basically save these up because it's a guaranteed thing that's gonna always be there because it's a new game system now rather than just a special shop, I think is definitely a big plus.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. The drawback, I guess, if we can call it that, of the medal system is it's time limited every time. So you kind of have to spend on what's currently available. You can't save them up for future releases.
So, all right, and the last part, because we got to keep moving. I said this was going to be shorter, but we'll see. Super Glassy. This is the temporarily known as JP exclusive unit, a fire elemental double cost, but 100 cost unit, but single cost in Lapis unit. I'm wondering if you globalers have any opinions on her so far. She has status effects, large AoEs, massive damage, and interestingly with Phoenix, she can be an incredibly defensive magic character against physical use. So, what do you think, Minute?
So I think she looks really good. Her limit burst in particular feels a little broken. It's I think basically what is it like 20 AP a turn she gains back.
10%
Um
every turn.
yeah,
Or
and she's just got a lot of interesting stuff. I think she can hit like 90 spirit pen without any gear. Um I found it interesting. She's got that weird new thing where if they have a status condition on them, she does extra damage to them. Um, and I think that's neat. I think it's a little weird that it's just on one ability. Um, like when I read her preview and it was talking about to doing stuff like that, I was sort of thinking it would be like a theme of her class. And so the fact that it's just sort of like one ability that does that, I was a little surprised to see that. But overall, I'm really excited for her, especially now that we've seen what the rain card is going to look like based on what's come out in Global. It seems like it's going to be a fantastic card for her.
yeah, though I do have to say the Laswell gets Shiva and Rain gets Mont, so I think that's kind of a downgrade visually. But we're not
I
here
would
to
agree.
we're not here
Yeah,
to
yeah,
completely
definitely.
twist the knife. Reindell, what do you think about her?
I think she's very interesting. Everything that Minute said, I do share that opinion, but there's also two more aspects to her that I think are pretty interesting. First off, her limit burst reduces counter chance to 0 for a couple turns before dealing damage. That means you have a reliable way of dealing with units with reflex, for example. So in a lot of game modes, especially if you're going for manual, you have sure kills on a couple units. So that's something that's very interesting and that I haven't really seen. Like Charlotte can do that, but she's not a damage dealer. She won't one-shot somebody through their reaction abilities. So that's pretty new. And then she only has 2 damage types, and almost all her attacks are magic-based. But if you equip her, I don't know what the name of her main job is, but if you go into that sub-job, she can actually decrease magic resistance. And outside of Kill Phase Limit Burst, I don't believe there's any real way to do that. So it's a new access to an ability that decreases magic resist and that you can cast several times. So she brings a couple new things to the board that I think are pretty cool. Would that be the sole reason I would pull for her? I'm not sure, but I like when new units have new mechanics. And on top of that, the a synergy with status effects is pretty cool as well.
Yeah, the so far I've been building her. I've almost got her to 99 already. She is a very, very strong performer. I would put her on the level of Black Witch Helena. Not insanely more powerful, but the Berserk and Sleep status effect that she has access to can be a little bit crippling towards the enemies. So it's interesting to see, a new powerful mage, and it took a year for them to get the vote results back. So
Yeah, I thought the fact that she had Berserk on such a low AP cost ability seemed a little crazy to me.
yeah, I haven't used her in too much content, but I'm curious about how good it. Look on that. All right, so we're going to wrap up this segment, and then we're going to move on to our next segment. Oh, my mouse is double clicking, which is the global 1.5 year anniversary. With JP having its anniversary currently, I thought it would be interesting to kind of see what everyone's kind of expecting for global to get, because global's always, by the time JP has gotten a little bit further, global kind of improves it just a little bit. So what are your guys' expectations? What are your wants? And we'll get to Zazen in a minute. We'll start with expectations. Reindell, for what global's 1.5, what do you think?
Well, I'm expecting that will be the moment where Zazan is released. I don't want to go too far ahead in your schedule, but that makes sense, especially since we've seen Glaciella on the JP side with the 1.5 anniversary. I'm also really hoping for some banners that feature the older vision cards. I know there's been the Select Unit banner for the 1.5 anniversary on JP, but I would be even more thrilled to see a VC Select banner for newer players. You can have all the units you want. If you don't have the good vision cards that are necessary at the beginning of the game, you can't necessarily run those units properly. So I would be really thrilled for newer players to get access to those without spending paid viz with the spring medals. So that would really be the main thing I think that needs to happen. If the game is to attract newer players and keep growing, there needs to be a way for these players to be somewhat competitive eventually down the drain, and not just buy the URVC shards whenever they appear in the shop, because that's never going to max them.
Oh, all right. How about you, Minute?
So I'm going to say something that's going to make JP players mad, but I fully expect that we're going to get Glaciella at the 1.5 year, just like JP did. I don't think there's any chance that they do not reuse the asset. And I don't think there's ever been an FFBE, which this game's linked with. I don't think they've ever released a unit in JP that didn't come to global with the, like, I think even the like collabs that they skipped, they eventually came out, even if it was like a year later during like a dead week. So for anyone who's thinking that they're mad that we're getting Zazan and JP got this awesome Glassy unit, she's totally coming to global. There's no chance she doesn't.
So is this where we start taking bets about whether or not she ends up, and we just get all the content creators, and then whoever gets it wrong has to make a couple of videos apologizing to the other?
My bold prediction is we get both her and Zazan together.
Oh, that would be a pretty heavy week, especially because I think Zazan's going to be double cost. But
Oh yeah, I'm fully expecting Zazan to be a double cost unit, especially with the really cool look they gave him and how long people have been waiting for
Oh
him. I would be
man,
surprised if he
he
wasn't.
looks awesome.
Oh yeah.
So let me just throw, before we talk about the obvious one, let me posit a hypothetical situation where you guys are not going to get glassy, but you are going to get something new because of the global anniversary. We get another Brave Exvius character coming over as an exclusive. Like we got Frivia before, you guys got Frivia before, who is still technically a global exclusive, even if Duan is not. So, know, is there a character you can potentially think of from Brave Exvius that would come over? What do you think?
Hmm. It's a pretty good question. I'm thinking, and I don't even know her name on top of my head, but there was one that was released as a global exclusive with one of these CGI animations. I think blue hair,
Elena.
sword,
Elena,
Alina.
yeah.
There we go. That would make sense considering how popular she was. But another one that I would personally be really thrilled to see is Esther. She's one of my favorite in terms of design, but it would not necessarily fit because she's more of a Easter unit, so doesn't necessarily fit with the anniversary.
How about you, Minute?
I'm with Reindell. I am a little shocked we have not gotten an Elena yet. I remember that last fall, I was absolutely convinced Elena was going to come any day now because they had just done NeoVisions and FFPE and were getting to ready to release NeoVisions Elena, and I was like, oh, we're totally going to get Elena and Wotiv as a joint thing, but it didn't happen, and so I'm just waiting for Elena.
All
Yeah,
right.
I don't think they'll do it, but Aurora Freyevia for the Freyevia Redemption arc in War of the Vision would be pretty funny to me.
Well, I'm going to just pick a one that I think is completely out of left field because I like to choose something that's very weird. There was the paid unit on the JP side, and I'm struggling to remember her name, but she was a red mage who her her staff became like a fencer blade at some time. I cannot remember. Or maybe chat can help me, but uh,
I'm trying. I know Lauren was the first paid one, right?
yeah.
She was with the awesome swordsman TMR that was really broken. I
And
don't
then
remember.
Medina was second, and then there was a third one. She had like the super TMR, the hat that was like magical and physical of like 60. And oh, it's driving me crazy. I can't remember her, but I
Yeah,
think
I can't remember.
bring her and make her like a multi-element mage just to make JP players cry that it's something that we can't get as an exclusive. Carlet, yeah, that was her
Oh
name.
yeah, yeah. Carlot maybe. Oh yeah, something like that. I remember that now.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you, Whiteberry and Jay Benson. You guys get a special shout out in the middle of InterVisions. But moving on, Zazin, the Beastmaster. What are your guys' expectations? What do you think he is going to specialize in doing? Is he going to be a fire elemental Beastmaster mage, or is he going to be something different? How about you, Minute? What do you think?
So I don't think he's gonna go from being a melee to a mage based on his art. The art we've seen would suggest to me that he's still gonna be physical attack focused. I really don't know what to expect in terms of elements. We got that thanks for the votes card that's water based. So part of me would think like I'd want that to work with him, but if he's not water, but would they still keep him water? So I expect them to change the elements, and maybe update things to the votes along with it to work with him and do something at least, even if he's not water.
All right. How about you, Reindell? What do you think?
On my end, I'm expecting him to be an Earth unit. We've just had a lightning power spike with Cloud, and that's right before the 1.5 year, or basically almost the same time. So I'm thinking that will be his element. And then if we look at the current Zazan, he kind of has to be a specialized in killing humans. I think he'll have probably man-eater passives, something to make him more of a PvP or man killer type unit with mobility, and then probably a re-raise on one of his buffs. Like instead of Immortal Spirit, he would have re-raise Spirit. I'm thinking he'll probably be something like that, just to respect the theme, but also counter the meta.
Interesting. What about sub jobs? What do you think? Because Beastmaster, we know, is kind of that's like Glassy ended up with White Wolf Princess, which is a wonderful title for a new job, but and we can probably expect Beastmaster is going to be his primary job. What do you think will be his second and third job? Let's go Minute first.
So, I mean, in theory, he is a ninja, right? So, I suspect he might get ninja sub job just because Shikuchi is so strong, and they like to give that to units that they want to be good. So, I suspect ninja will be in there, but I don't have a good idea for the other one.
How about Reindell?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Let me say, I think he'll be Beastmaster, and then he'll have the Alim combo. He'll be Assassin, because that's just fits his theme pretty well.
Assassin? Okay. I'm going to just say Black Mage and Red Mage. Let's go. I'm all in on this idea. And he will be a ice element mage just to really mess with people.
Yes, it's got to be ice.
Right? Ice cold.
Gosh.
His heart
so
is frozen
surprising.
over.
But with a limit burst, there's lots of flames.
Yeah. That's how it works. Yeah, like Barrett flames, Velric flames, Orin flames. I think we have to continue trend.
Yeah,
I love how...
flames.
Oh, go ahead, Reindell.
I was going to say flames and then a thunderbolt in the middle as well, just so we can have more elements be ice.
My favorite thing about Oron is that he's ice with a fire limit burst that's called Tornado.
That's just amazing. Here's one last thing to talk about with Zazin. Do you like Glassy has this thing where she has Berserk and Sleep and kind of goes a little bit into getting some benefits from being able to cause those status effects through her abilities. Do you think Zazin will have a special kind of gimmick, and what would it be? So obviously relating to the Beastmaster class, but Reindell, what do you think?
All right, that's a pretty wild thing, but it would be really cool if he had Doom on one of his abilities, but then further casts of the same ability reduces the timer as well. Something like that.
Okay, and how about you, Minute?
I'd like to see him have something that interesting related to like Immortal Spirit or re-raise negation somehow. I don't know if they could put a different spin on it, but something to just play off the whole meminess of how he works.
Nice.
With what you just said, I'm thinking giving him something like we've seen in FFBE, the ability to steal buffs, perhaps just steal re-raise or Immortal Spirit. That would just be perfect for him.
That would be incredible. Yeah, if he could steal those abilities, that would be really cool.
Maybe. My idea that I just kind of thought of right now because I didn't do too much preparation is I want him to be the ultimate flexible unit in terms of content. I want him to have some AoE abilities, but I want each of his abilities to have a specific killer on it. Like for him to have a Chocobo killer, a Esper killer, a Dragon killer, an Aquatic killer. Like, just have an ability for each and every situation so that he is the ultimate, like, I'm just going to kill you no matter what you are. And that would make him incredibly appealing because he's so flexible in so many pieces of content.
I like that concept. It would be new, but also very worth it for people to invest in him.
Yeah, and if they do that, though, they've got to give all of his abilities names that don't make it clear what it does the killer for. So you sit there and take forever scrolling through, clicking on each ability.
Yeah, you have Feather Slayer, but that's just for chocobos and not for birds.
Yeah.
Yes.
Frog smash that kills everything except frogs, all the aquatics. Could be interesting. We'll have to wait and see in 3 months what happens in global, because if there's one thing I know right now, it's that it's pretty hard to guess exactly how Gumi's mind works and what they have in the future. So let's move on to our Coliseum for the month, which is, well, Coliseum for the episode, is this month going to be called Highlander Coliseum. There can be only one. So for our guest tonight, the topic is FF7 units. We've got Cloud, an amazing swordsman with an incredible kit. Aerith, one of the best healers in the game with large AoEs. Tifa, a malign type of damage with multi-elemental, or with chaining and barrier breakers and all kinds of stuff. And Barrett, who ended up with basically the best vision card ever for the ice element and still a ranged guy. You guys, you only get to choose one of these units, and I want to hear your reasoning behind which one you choose, and then maybe Reindell and even battle with each other about which one of their choices are better. So let's start with our brand new addition to InterVisions. Minute, who do you choose? Why do you not choose the others? Go.
Okay. So I'm going to be very clear and say that no one else should choose what I'm going to choose. But I like Barrett because he's interesting. He's sort of got that like Dwayne hate thing, but he's a ranged unit. And so I'm really curious to see if you could do something interesting where you park him on one side to get that initial hate up and drag the opponent away, and maybe like a real tank on the other side to like then provoke and pull them right back and just like really mess with the opponent's opening moves. Again, I think it is a bad choice for the majority of players if they can only do one. But for me, I think he's the one I'd have the most fun trying to make work.
Interesting. Do you have any reasons why you would not choose the other three?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm expecting Tifa seems like the weakest to me. She had some interesting stuff, but her kit felt a little gimmicky in how it worked. I mean, Cloud is obviously Cloud. Lightning is the big meta right now. He's going to be amazing. And if you don't have Yuna, you need to pull for Aerith. So that I can't really say anything bad about either of them.
Want bad, but okay. I respect your point, sir. Thank you very much. And now to
I will say
Reindell.
Aerith will get killed by all the lightning meta. So there is that.
Oh, so sad. Reindell, what is your opinion?
Well, I have a different opinion between what people should do and what I will do. I think people should go for Cloud. He's versatile, he can ignore defense, and he can do non-slash type attacks if the enemy has high slash resist. So he's really strong overall. But who I would pick if I had only one, it would be Aerith. I'm a big fan of manual play, and I've been waiting for the new Nivlu. So a unit that can heal, deal damage, haste, quicken. She has so many tools in her kit that as a enabler for a manual team, she feels like the strongest out of the bunch. And that's the main reason why I'll pull for a unit. I want to have a nice toolkit where I can use like the perfect tool at the perfect moment, either in auto by setting the AI well, or in manual play. And so she's my pick, definitely. The other ones, I like Barrett's kit as an interesting new thing, but you want your hate guy to be in front, usually. If your hate guy's behind and he's not in range, your other guys are just going to die before he can tank, in my opinion. Tifa's really cool, but like Minute said, she's a little bit gimmicky. Like, you can build for evasion, you can build for a couple things, but I'm not sure how good she'll be as a standalone win unit. I think she needs a team that supports her. And then, as I said, I think Cloud is the strongest pick for a player, but it's just not my pick.
Hey, so we have one with Barrett and one with Aerith, and how should we do this? Because it is Highlander Coliseum, meaning that we can only have one winner between the two. And I don't count because I'm the host, and I have that power, apparently. But you guys, I will give you 30 seconds. Make your case to me why your character is the better of, between the two of you. So I'll give you just. Do you need some time to think, or do you think you're ready to go?
I think we have to be ready.
I mean, I'm going to be very clear that my character is not the one.
Well, this is your debate time, and chat. You guys, of course, your opinion is always correct. We operate by the rules of Twitch here, but we less correct mortal beings will argue. So, all right, 30 seconds on the clock for Reindell first. Okay, ready? And tell me why Aerith wins over Aerith. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, so have you ever set up a team for double quicken in Arena where one of your units goes 3 times in a row and you just wreck the whole enemy team? Usually when you have to set those teams, your person with quicken doesn't have much utility. They'll do that on their first turn, and then they'll go do a nuke and die if it's Kahal or something like that. Like most units with quicken are fairly weak, but now you have one that has haste, and then that can heal, that can revive people, well, cast auto revive, and can do pretty significant damage as well. I think that's just a great kit, and it's going to be good at enabling other characters.
All right, and we'll set 30 seconds on the clock for minute. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to say. If you pick up Aerith, she's going to get one shot by all the lightning units. And if you're running her in a manual PvP class match type setting with a double quicken strat, everyone is going to hate you. They will all hate you. Every single person who matches with you, they're going to be like, this dude sucks. I hate this guy. And that is why you shouldn't pick Aerith, because you want to be loved by everyone when they see Barrett across from you and from the
time. All right. Well,
I think your argument wins, Minute. I have to yield. It's just I can't say anything about that.
I mean, that felt more of an attack on Reindell, so I don't know if Aerith wins or loses, but I do know that Reindell essentially is dead at this point and buried, and maybe even stomped on just a little tiny bit. So we're gonna say that the winner of all of the Final Fantasy VII units is MinuteHour. Congratulations, Minute. A round of applause for you.
I will go ahead and say to all the manual PvPers out there, I appreciate what you do, but it is not for me.
So also, we're going to be burying, alongside Reindell today, we're going to be burying all of the manual PvPers. And I still think that'll be a pretty small graveyard, but I don't have the numbers on that to actually.
Unfortunately, you're right.
But yeah, with the FF7 units, they're all good picks. Pick the one that you love the most, and I think more than anything, I'm actually really happy to hear you guys have chosen some different units from what I think is the really obvious one. Lots of people out there who, like, Cloud is just very clearly the strongest because of all the support he gets. But Aerith is incredibly interesting for having the Quicken and the Time Mage and the healing and everything and the auto raise. Make good points, Reindell. And Barrett is just quite interesting in terms of just how different he is. Like, I think that picking up on those points is very good, because a lot of people will just look at him and say, he doesn't make sense. He's just a gunner. But I think some people are missing out on that. So some very valid points. And Tifa, well, she's a free unit. She's elemental chaining. And really, it just depends on what we get in the future. So globalers, keep an eye out to what JP gets. Maybe some more wind stuff will show up before Tifa. And if not, she's a free unit. She's pretty easy to build if you set up some. All right, so thank you guys for indulging me on the Highlander Coliseum today. And we're going to move on to our main topic of the evening, which is a really, I actually think, maybe a little bit too big of a topic, because this has been brought up recently on the most recent JP live stream that they are going to intend on rebalancing the game, rebalancing the elements. And this is kind of interesting on multiple levels, just because, first of all, what elements need the most rebalancing is a question. But I actually have been, I want to pose this question: should we rebalance the element? Is this even a thing that needs to happen? So I think that's the first question to ask both of my guests tonight. Should we rebalance the elements, or should they be perfectly balanced? What are your opinions? We'll start with Reindell on this.
I don't think the elements should be rebalanced. At the very least, not by updating things that have that are already released. I think there's a meta, and things are going to shift naturally throughout the game. It's just normal. And where there are elements that are weaker, especially since they release the vision cards with element exclusive buffs, some elements have had the short end of the stick compared to what, for example, Ice gets. But I think rebalancing, if it's necessary, needs to be done forward. So you release new vision cards that are actually competitive and good for the weaker elements. That would be good. Or new characters, but don't go ahead changing what's already there. People will be mad because they either decided not to pull for something or to go for it. And if they do so for a reason. You can't change that reason after the fact.
All right. And how about you, Minute? What do you think? Should the elements be rebalanced?
So I think I'm with Reindell, and that my preference is to see this done by releasing new stuff that helps close the power gap. The one exception I'll say is if they went back and said, hey, all the vision cards that we gave those element exclusive stuff in the first year, the ones that we like really screwed over and gave like terrible buffs to, we're gonna go ahead and like give them something that isn't terrible. I don't think I would mind seeing that at all, because those had all been released prior to the 1 year. So buffing those, I feel like would be okay and wouldn't leave people feeling like, oh, I should have pulled for that, right? Like they're all older cards, and I think you could go a long way towards making some of that better if you did that. And then I think the other thing that they really need to do is that, like Fire is seeing a bit of a resurgence in global right now, but a lot. I was surprised. Like they had to do a lot to make that happen. They had to shift Rain up, shift his VC up, give global buffs to like all these Fire cards that just came out, and they had to do that because the Fire element's been locked to time limited cards, basically, right? The Crystal Chronicles card hasn't come back.
Yeah.
And so I'd really like to see less powerful element specific stuff like that in time limited cards going forward.
Yeah, one thing I would add to that would more easily rebalance stuff is giving elemental weapons to elements that are weaker. These are generally game changers when they're released for some elements. One of the reasons Ice is so strong is because they have the Ice brand and the Ice Lance. And when they released, say, the Lightning Spear, 9S became much stronger just because of that. So if they want to make some elements stronger without doing a major change, they can just release, say, Earth equipment for just about every weapon type in the game. And then Earth is naturally a bit stronger without having to overhaul anything.
Yes, the Buster Sword is another one of those thunder weapons that's just way overtuned in terms of what it can do.
The other thing I'll add is I think they have to be very careful what they do on the JP side of things with this, because they've been really doing what I think is a pretty good job of having an interesting global meta that's been different from what JP has done. And so I think the fact that they moved Gilgamesh up, and so for the past month, Oron has actually been a big deal paired with Gilgamesh EX, right? And JP Oron didn't make much of a splash at all. Now we're shifting into this like really strong fire meta right now. And they're doing all these sort of global upgrades. And if they try to rebalance stuff in JP without coordinating with the global side, that puts the global developers, I think, in a bit of a tricky balance spot, depending on how drastic of a change JP makes.
All right. Those are some definitely excellent points that I had not considered myself. Uh, and talking about the elements right now, it's very clear that dark is the strongest element. I mean, maybe not yet on global, but give it about 2 more weeks and it'll shift. But if my question for you guys, which of the elements needs the most help, do you think? Like out of, all of them, obviously not dark, which one, unless you really want to help dark. Let's, dark element game and all the other elements are superfluous, but what do you guys think? Which one is most in need of help? Minute, how about you?
I would say wind right now. Wind was really strong when Lil Leela was really like the only like awesome healer. But with the rise of ice units and how strong a lot of the ice stuff has been since EX, I feel like wind as an element is suffering quite a bit. I think Earth is close, but with the fact that lightning's big now, I think you're just like a Halloween Ryryu and Kilfei EX away from maybe changing that on the JP side. So I'm less concerned about Earth.
All right. Yeah, Ketone EX and Drain Force has been a major killer of Charlottes as well as Clouds. Kind of interesting. So, how about you, Reindell? Which element do you think?
I would place Earth first and then Wind as a very close second. So we're in the same area here. I think Earth lacks a magic-based vision card. Overall, there's nothing for that right now, and we didn't get that many Earth EX units that are considered powerful. And in terms of elemental exclusive abilities, they definitely got the shorter end of the stick. There's none of them are that good, aside from Evasion on Titan, but then it's still gimmicky. You're running Evasion. So I know there are some things that are released in the JP side that makes it better, like Ketone EX, but for now in Global, it definitely feels like a weaker element. And then Win just got to be in her vision card, which makes them very strong. But that doesn't really help most wind units. That wind is still weaker in general. Like you can run what Oldoa, she's not that competitive at all. So outside of 2B, there aren't that many good characters right now for wind.
So, and one thing you guys mentioned about being careful about going forward and how it is rebalancing. One of the things I'm kind of worried about is elemental identity, which is something that I don't really hear ever talked about that much. But I feel like certain elements have developed kind of identity. Fire at this point seems more defensive than offensive. Same with Earth, and same with shoot. There's one other element that I guess maybe light, but that's debatable with how good Angle is still at this point. But I guess my question is what does rebalancing elements actually entail while still keeping class identity? Because to some extent, I think it's important that we do keep identity for the element so that it doesn't just feel like it's all DPS all the time. Like, how do you create an interesting dynamic between the elements? Well, so what do you think, Minute?
So the thing I'll say is I do like the idea that certain elements skew towards one thing, but my hope is that we don't see any more of the who is the Ice Greatsword that's like the Oron wannabe that just came out, right? Like
Oh,
that really bothered me, right? Like seeing that he's basically just like an Oron clone coming out later. I'm like, why couldn't he couldn't have been any other element? And so I would hate to see them get to a point where it's like, okay, we release a new ice unit just like the other ice units, right? So I think they do have to diversify them some, but it would be neat if there were like a couple of semi-unique things or themes for each element. But it's a tricky balance, I think.
How about you, Reindell?
I am much more interested in having unique units that are unique and diverse in each element than having an actual element identity. I think it's interesting, but if you try to keep your characters to an archetype too much, it kind of limits the creative process you can do to create new units. One way you could keep some form of element identity is give one type of status effect for every element, like keep the frostbite specific to ice teams, but then create some sort of similar effects for every element, and only those units could have them. That might be a way to keep something unique while not limiting the development too much.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that they have their work cut out for them because they've essentially confirmed at this point that, well, as much as we can trust Goofy confirming stuff, that basically going forward, it would be the new units that are mostly going to be rebalancing the elements. But do you think that's going to be really bad for like lower spenders and everything? Because essentially at this point, it means that there's going to be theoretically a lot of power creep in the next few months, and possibly a lot of 100 cost units which have lower rates, because if we need to rebalance the units around stronger vision cards and stronger new characters, that does mean it's a lot of building and a lot of devaluation of old units. At this point, EXs, like EX awakenings for older units might be a big no-no for globalers on the future. So what do you guys think about that? Minute, how about you?
So right now, I think in general, EXing older units doesn't have a lot of value outside of very specific circumstances. So the only ones I've done are I did Gilgamesh because he came a little early, and I had Oron and wanted to pair them together well. Frederica's sort of on my radar, and not a lot of the other units are. Mostly just because it's so hard to get those blossoms. It's it's and like we just got the Luell banner where they cut back the number of blossoms we got for pulling on like the 9 step, and if you did the 3 step, there weren't any. So it's definitely for me something where I'm trying to keep in mind, making sure I have those right. I've got Espers I can't awaken because I didn't. I was expecting when Odin came out that there would be another batch of the 3-star stuff. So I'm definitely in a space of save for the newer stuff right now.
How about you, Reindell? What do you think?
Well, in regards to rebalancing with releasing new units, I think that's the worst possible way to do it. It does, like you said, hint towards power creep, because if they want to rebalance with new units, they have to make them stronger. And it's much more difficult for players to max out an EX unit with all the 1000 shards than it would be to max out a new vision card that you only need 275 shards for, and that you can pull for sure in 5 steps. I would rather see equipment and vision cards than see like really stronger new units that shift the meta. To me, that solves the problem more easily. But I guess less people do pull for vision cards, and it brings less money perhaps to Gumi. So that would explain the decision there.
Yeah.
Honestly, what I'd really like to see is what I'll call glue units that sort of stitch 2 elements together. So sort of like a shift away from mono elements and more towards like I've got this unit that makes you want to run a lightning unit and an earth unit in the team with them for somehow, right? Something akin to like Sakura, where she's got the light resist down, but she also does lightning down and has some lightning based abilities. um, I think that would be maybe a more interesting way of making some of those units more powerful without necessarily doing the power creep, right? Take a unit that's weaker and give them a unit that lets them pair well with a stronger element.
Hey, that's
I
actually
am,
a
yeah.
really good idea.
Go ahead, Umbra.
Oh, no, no, I'm finished. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, for me, the release of multi-element unit is the one big thing I'm waiting for in War of the Visions. It could be units having abilities that have multiple elements, but just having the ability to imperil other elements or protect against various elements, like Sakura has. This is what makes Sakura one of the most interesting units in the game. And if they did more of those, they don't necessarily have to rebalance elements as much because you have more versatility in your team as well.
That's a good point. So, one more thing, just as a thing for potential I want to offer this as a global advice piece, and I want to get your opinions on it as the last bit in this conversation. Even though I think dual element characters is very interesting idea and something we should return to on a future InterVision. Uh, Here's a question for you guys. So, for globalers in the future, do you think that the best characters now, without a doubt, for everyone to invest in is Black Witch Helena and Duan because they are so strong in the dark element that they could compete against whatever future element creep we have? They're just going to be your best long-term value. What do you think, Minute?
So in general, I never recommend anyone invest heavily in double cost units. I like for free to play or small spenders, they're just too expensive. And I don't think if you're not spending a bunch of money in game, you're not going to be playing at the level in guild battles where you have to have those units probably anyways. And so I tend to suggest to people to focus on the time limited stuff that you like, and the rest will come eventually. And that's probably the advice I'll continue giving going forward. I just built King Mons, but he was probably a try to do his step up, and if I don't get him, skip, and then they put him in the spring metal shop, right? So I did go ahead and build him, but at the rate they're making those units available to whales so easily and so cheaply, I wouldn't recommend free to play players try to chase those. I'd recommend that they just have fun with the units that they want to have fun with.
All right, sounds like good advice. Reindell, what about you?
An advice that I like to give to players is to set their expectations ahead of time and determine why they want to play the game. Like, if the reason you want to play the game is to be competitive in PvP setups and to have like the top tier units, then sure, go ahead for Black Rose Helena. But otherwise, I think players should focus more on taking characters that they really like the design and the kit, and characters that they will love playing. Because in the long run, every unit, even Black Witch Elena, eventually will be power crept. And at that point, if you don't like her design and her kit, you won't use her anymore. But if you built a unit that you love the unit, either because of nostalgia from previous games or just because they're really cool in your eyes, you're going to keep using those, even when they're a little bit power crept. So I think it depends. But for competitive players and in that mindset, sure, Black Rose Hill 9 Dwayne are among the best choices.
Okay, well, definitely an excellent conversation from you guys. Some great points. Thank you so much for conversing about the idea of rebalancing the elements and what it's going to be like in the future, because globalers, they'll have more heads up, but there's always the Gumi adjustments for global, which kind of also change things. So it's still a little bit pliable as we go forward. Last thing, if there are, we're running a little, I don't want to run too much longer to keep you guys too busy, but we'll take a few questions from the chat. And I saw one earlier in chat from Urs, who was talking a little bit about Rain's release. This is his question. Do you guys think Gumi will switch either the timing for double cost coming out next or switch Duan to begin with? With Rain's release, a bit curious if it was due to JP's lackluster release. So while we're fielding that question, if anyone in the chat wants to throw another, we'll just do a couple of questions, I think. But what are your guys' think with Rain's early release? Minute, how about you?
So I like that they did it. I think if we had gotten him when JP got him, no one would have cared all that much. I think Reindell was maybe on the last InterVisions. Reindell, were you the Rain fan last time?
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah, I disagreed pretty strongly with that. I'm not seeing it for him. I think he does have a spot now. If I put my tinfoil hat on, though, part of me wonders if Global is going to get Summer Kitone or not. And if they released Rain and the Rain slash Mont card now, because we're not getting Summer Catone, and if they waited to do it, and so we saw that we weren't getting it this summer, no one would pull for the card.
Yeah, that's a consideration. How about you, Reindell?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to change the schedule further. When you think about why units are released earlier or other things, you have to think about the excitement about the unit and how much people are going to spend Viz on them. And Gumi wants to optimize that. It's basically the more Viz you spend on everything that's released, the more Viz you're going to be tempted to buy. And so, like Minute said, Rain released later was very unpopular. So that's the reason probably that they pushed it now, especially since people are already investing in Fire right now. So they feel like they're going to miss out if they don't max him now or get the Vision card that's released alongside him. I also think that's the reason why we had a guaranteed pull for Luelle, because most people were planning on skipping her because Black Rose Helena's afterwards. But if she's going to be guaranteed on the banners, people are still going to spend that Viz more likely than anything else, just because they're sure to get some value out of it. So it's all about excitement and whatnot. People are super excited and ready for Black Rose Helena. They're not going to change the schedule, I think.
Hey, I personally think that in general, because I'll throw my answer in too. I'm a host, but you know I can do this. I think that they will actually continue to push them forward, a lot of the EX Awakenings, because it doesn't really matter that much to the schedule, in my opinion. It's really just, you know, they're essentially ready, and they can be easily patched into the game and take advantage of the fact that people are hyped for it. I mean, I think that they would be really smart to put Engel in the game like next month, like again, roughly about 2 months earlier, because, well, I think he got a successful EX. Comparing him to Charlotte is a little bit tricky, so you might as well get in on that those potential sales right then. But it has seemed like they're very dependent on what the vision card is. Like they seem to be buffing those kind of weeks of downtime, and Luelle was just brilliant in terms of marketing, because you know globalers already know that Cloud is something to be feared, but Luelle is a pushback against that, and just so many shards. I think my jaw dropped when I saw the banners on Dig's stream, where it was just like, excuse me, 400 of her shards. I know this is a PG stream, but what the
Oh, yeah.
I will say, like you brought up, the Cloud just came out, and then Luelle comes out, and they give us these great banners. I will say, part of me thought when Tifa dropped and we saw Tifa's wind card, right before Global got 2B, who a lot of folks weren't too hyped on. I thought that was a little interesting as well in terms of timing. And so part of me does wonder if there's a little bit of a, we're looking at what, like trying to take advantage of our foresight to sell stuff now going on.
Oh yeah, more than likely.
Yeah, don't wonder at all. It's certain that they're doing that. I'm sure that they have as much spending, if not more, into the marketing side than they do into the development side. And they study these things and they know these things. That's the way companies work.
All right.
One thing I'll say about Black Rose Helena, because I think everyone's sort of expecting her in like 2 weeks from now, is we still don't know what's happening with the winter EX units that we're missing. We've got Duane EX and maybe Fravia EX when Duane EX comes out, I would assume, which would also maybe the Fravia Vision card that's supposed to be ending soon. So we've got a handful of things that we don't really know where or if they're going to fit into the global schedule at all right now. And so I don't really know where that's going to fall. Is it before Helena or after?
I would say after, but then again, it's not going to be like three. We just found out that next week on the JP side, we're getting Halloween, winter, and one other type. Oh, Valentine's Day stuff is getting repeated with even guarantees for units if you really want to spend the money. but one of the things that was interesting about it, there was no summer units on it, which is probably to the fact that there's going to be a banner soon for summer units that's separate with newer stuff. But interestingly, the Halloween units didn't get an EX. They just didn't. So that could just mean bad things for Leela, where now if you miss that timing, I don't know when she actually gets her EX, or Raryu either. So that's maybe a little concerning for people who are really big fans of those units, because I don't know when those EXs. Halloween, then it will feel just maybe way too late.
Yeah, that also reminds me that Global has not gotten Valentine's Lear. And are we going to get her late at some point?
I think you're going to get the Chinese treatment for that one. That's not being racist. The Chinese version has launched, and every woman in it has leggings, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's what happens on Global. But all right, one last question for you guys, and then we'll wrap it up. This is from Elder Wolf in chat, who's been doing a wonderful job keeping chat in line, although chat's been great tonight. Do you think ever units whose weapons of subjobs they have, the new VC update on JP has skills for subjobs now? So essentially, like what is it? I'll give you an example. The Christmas or Xmas Winter Ildira card, if a unit has like any mace subjob, then they can use the ability as well now. So, for instance, Black Witch Helena has access to that ability now off that vision card. What do you guys think? Reindell, let's go with you.
I would be very surprised if they let units actually equip weapons of several types. That would be a major change to the way the game works, just like creating new units that can equip dual weapons or something like that. Units are balanced around their specific weapons. And so there are so many implications for allowing that for every item type, for every unit. That seems like way too much of a meta change, possibly, for them to allow that. What I do think they could do, and I hope they do eventually, is allow you to pick the weapon skins for these secondary jobs that you have. That would at least be some cool thing, because it feels really weird when you're using your character, say Luelle right now, that has a book, and then she begins using a skill with a basic longsword instead of going for another nice weapon that you have.
You're saying you don't want Cloud with a bow. Okay, anti-Cloud fan. We'll just mark that down. All right. All right. How about you, Minute? What do you think?
I think it would upset their ability to release new interesting weapons that people wanted to take the time to farm, right? If you've got a gun user that can now equip a lightning sword, right? Like the lightning gun loses a lot of its appeal as like a new piece of equipment. So I think that's another strike against them ever doing that, because right now they can basically keep releasing new gear and okay, I got to farm this new thing because it's better in this unique case. And I think you risk losing some of that otherwise.
Yeah, I agree. If you had the chance to equip several pieces of equipment, you would just pick the one with the elemental bonus and keep that for all damage types.
Could mean less farming for people.
Yeah, I don't think they necessarily want that.
They don't want that.
No,
the more
they
farm,
don't need to know that.
Right,
Yeah,
and well, so it might be less farming, but it's also less. Oh, you can skip the farming and buy the +5 version of the new weapon in the shop for 2K Viz or whatever that they're doing right now. Right, I know some people, like I've been tempted to pick those up and not bother with the farming.
Yeah, there's that. But then there's also the fact when you spend, say, 6 hours a day in a game farming, you commit a major portion of your brain and your thoughts to that game. And so the game takes more importance in your life, and you'll be more susceptible to spending in the game because it just has such a big importance. If you farm less, if you spend less time in the game, you just play 30 minutes a day, well, the game isn't that big part of your life. And you might spend less as well. There's a correlation there, I think. So they don't necessarily want to reduce farming.
We could do a whole InterVisions on gotcha tactics in terms of getting people spending and whatnot. And that would probably still be the longest episode by about 6 hours. So maybe a topic for another day. But yeah, that's. I will say that, you know what? I'm going to. Let's just go with Elder's Wolf idea. Let's just make them use all the equipment. Let's have entirely chaos in the game. And let's see how things shake out. Why not, right? It would be an interesting Sunday.
For sure. Or like time limited battles where you can do that, possibly.
I
Yeah.
want to equip 3 weapons.
3 weapons, triple wielding. Gilgamesh is in the game, but he doesn't have extra arms. They missed that note about Final Fantasy. Gilgamesh is supposed to have more arms.
I mean, his wings have enough swords for anyone to use.
Wings, not arms. I'm very sticky on the arms segment, I guess. We got to keep him like a fighter, right? All right, so that's a good place to end on the questions for today. I think we'll, start wrapping up this episode. And, I want to thank my 2 guests for joining me. Both of you have been absolutely amazing. Minute and Reindell, you guys have been fantastic. Before we get to, Twitter tags and YouTube tags and all that fun stuff, I want you to know if there's, anything else you'd like to say about the game for the next week or couple weeks, month, any advice you have. What do you think, Minute?
I just really hope we get the Winter EX units. I want to use Winter Venera with Luel and Halloween Ryryu. Yeah, I really want those units, please.
I like the commitment to a unit that I don't see enough of. I like that. That is fantastic. Reindell, what about you? What closing words do you have tonight?
Closing words, keep in mind that Black Rose Helena is not time limited. Don't give your entire life savings to get her. Everything that's not time limited, you will get back. Actually, even limited stuff eventually reruns. But yeah, keep your wallet in check at that time. I do encourage spending in the game, but not going bankrupt because of that.
Yeah. My piece of advice is that I do think that Black Witch Helena is a game changer still, and I do think even with the global adjustment, she's still incredibly powerful. And people should try at least a little bit to get her, even if it's just like a one. I mean, you got to see what the global banners are too, but my piece of advice is 89 for Black Witch Helena is still considerably stronger than some other characters even in EX. So even if you get her in only to 89, you can just slow farm after that. You're good. You don't have to worry too much about it. So yeah. I want to thank you guys. You guys have been absolutely fantastic on this episode of InterVisions. Minute, where can people find you? What kind of content maybe that you got coming up, or what kind of streams you got coming up? Let the people know. It's your time. Go for it.
Yeah, so you can most commonly find me on Minute Havoc, MinuteHavoc on Twitch. I tend to stream in the evenings now that I'm back at work full time. I do have a YouTube channel, but to be honest, it's a little neglected. The best way I can describe my stream is a just chatting stream with Votive in the background.
Excellent. Sounds like a really nice time. Everyone go follow him. For on YouTube, I'll have all the links and everything for everybody's YouTube channel and Twitch. But make sure you follow Minute both on YouTube and Reddit, or not Reddit. Well, maybe Reddit. Maybe he has a lot of Reddit posts, but follow him on Twitch, please. Make sure you do that. And Reindell, how about you? What you got coming up?
Well, right now I'm mainly doing arena videos. I've been doing a Silma showcase yesterday. There's a Duel and Silma and Nisha showcase coming out tomorrow. That should be pretty interesting. And I'll do some class match videos later as well for the 10 people that want to watch those. So there's that coming up. And you can find me on YouTube /Reindell. So Reindell.
All right. So yeah, everyone in chat and everyone watching on YouTube, please make sure that you like all of their videos and watch all of their videos. I know it's homework, but you guys can do it. And definitely the least you can do is drop a follow for both their Twitch and YouTubes, because they've been absolutely fantastic guests tonight. And I guess I'll give a little bit of a preview of something coming up for me, although it might be out by the time this video goes live, because we have to process this video, and these videos are just massive. My coming up video is about the FF7 collaboration, and a bit of a rant about how bad it is. So, and just generally my feelings of disappointed now that it's coming to an end. So if you guys want to check that out, of course, I think everybody, you know me at this point, whatever. You're watching this video, so you probably know. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight, and everyone in chat and everyone watching on YouTube. I guess that's it. We'll say some closing words.
I do want to thank you, Umbra, for organizing this and inviting us. It's been a pleasure to get to know Minute here as well. But you deserve your share of things as well, Umbra.
Yeah, same thing. This has been an absolute blast. I'm really glad my kids did not interrupt it.
We'll get them on
and I had a lot of fun. So thank you for having me on.
All right. Well, thank you guys, and we'll just do a out closing and do a little wrap up afterwards for the Twitch viewers. Okay. All right. And...
All right. So is it time to wave at the camera?
Oh, I transitioned over too fast.
Too late.
Reindell waved. All right.